Kuma's punch landed with an impact so immense that it sent Saturn flying across the battlefield. Buildings crumbled in its wake, collapsing onto the Gorosei and burying him beneath the rubble as if the heavens themselves had crushed him flat. For a moment, silence reigned. The Straw Hats were frozen in shock, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Even the Marines could only stare in disbelief. One of the highest authorities in the entire world had been floored by a single strike. Luffy's legendary punch against a celestial dragon now seemed like nothing more than child's play compared to this. But triumph quickly gave way to tragedy. The effort had drained Kuma, and his massive frame collapsed to his knees. Soldiers immediately scrambled to dig Saturn out of the wreckage. Bonney, meanwhile, couldn't stop crying. Yet, amidst the chaos, the Straw Hats finally felt their bodies move again. The strange paralysis lifted. They rushed forward to grab Bonney and get her to safety, but Sanji raised a hand to stop them. Kuma, despite his mechanical body locking up, was forcing himself forward, stiffly, painfully, just to reach his daughter. Then came the shocking realization. In a bittersweet moment, Sanji froze as he put the pieces together. Bonney wasn't the teenager she appeared to be. She was still a child. He muttered under his breath, half joking but half serious, that the FBI would be knocking on his door for all the times he'd let his imagination run wild. But the thought was swept aside as Kuma finally wrapped his massive arms around Bonney in a trembling embrace. The moment broke everyone. Bonney's sobs grew louder, and Frankie, unable to contain himself, started bawling right alongside her, tears streaming down his face as if in competition. Vegapunk stood in stunned silence, utterly bewildered. He had designed Kuma with a self-destruct mechanism. Once activated, it should have erased every last trace of his will, leaving him no more than an empty husk. And yet, here Kuma was, moving on his own, powered not by science, but by something far greater. "It isn't strength," Vegapunk muttered to himself. "What makes pirates special is their spirit." Meanwhile, Admiral Kizaru slowly staggered back to his feet, still battered from the clash. Sentomaru, bruised and exhausted, managed to smile through the pain, relieved that Kuma had made it this far. The soldiers, however, were in complete disarray. Their eyes darted across the battlefield, panic rising. Where was Luffy? The captain of the Straw Hats had vanished, and nobody dared file a report admitting he had simply slipped away. Kuma, drained, could barely move anymore. His body sagged, his mechanical parts grinding to a halt. Bonney clung to him, her tears soaking his chest. Through her sobs, she thanked him for everything he had done. She had seen it all, every joy, every sorrow, every memory he carried. She had witnessed his life in full. She told him how proud she was, and how overjoyed she was to finally see him again. Her mother, she said, had been an incredible woman, strong-willed, loyal, and ready to fight anyone who dared lay a hand on Kuma. Bonney giggled through her tears, teasing her father for being such a fool when he rejected Jenny's proposal, but she knew the truth. He had done it for her sake, to protect the daughter he loved more than anything. And now Bonney understood that her father had never once stopped thinking about her. He had written her countless letters during his travels, chronicling his adventures across the world, gushing about Dr. Vegapunk's inventions, and dreaming about the day he could show it all to her. But those letters never reached her. Alpha, the rat who betrayed them, had stolen them away. Even so, the words lived within Kuma, etched into every fiber of his being. Through tears, Bonney hugged him tighter. "They call you a tyrant," she said, "but to me, you're the kindest man in the world. I'll never forget that. Ever." While the reunion unfolded, the Marines continued their frantic effort to dig Saturn out of the ruins, and then the ground began to shake. From beneath the rubble came a surge of monstrous energy, so violent that it flung soldiers and debris into the air like leaves in a storm. The crew froze in horror. Had Kuma actually managed to kill a Gorosei? Was Saturn truly finished, crushed beyond recognition? For a fleeting moment, they dared to believe it. Some even thought this monster was ready to be printed on a celebratory t-shirt. But then the nightmare returned. From the wreckage, Saturn's grotesque form clawed its way free. His body twisted and reformed, limbs bending into a monstrous spider-like shape. With a sickening lurch, he landed on the battlefield in a pose eerily reminiscent of a Marvel hero's entrance. The fight was far from over. Let's be real, this old man was no hero. Saturn's body was falling apart, his arm completely torn off, and for the first time, even this so-called god couldn't regenerate. Stunned, he turned to Vegapunk and demanded to know if this was his doing, but the scientist shook his head and gave an answer that only made Saturn's rage boil hotter. No, it was the power of love. Saturn snarled at the notion. A mistake, he spat. His body began to pulse, his horns glowing with an eerie light, and to the crew's horror, his arm regenerated in an instant, good as new. Someone shouted in disbelief, wondering how a body could heal so quickly, but the Gorosei was done with explanations. Now restored, he declared that he no longer had any use for Kuma. With monstrous fury, he hurled his claws at him again. Before they could land, Sanji appeared in a blur of motion, his leg blazing as he intercepted the strike with a thunderous kick. "Not on my watch," he growled. Frankie, all fired up, shouted that Kuma had saved their lives too many times to count. Raising his mechanical arm, he charged a laser beam, ready to blast Saturn straight into the afterlife. And then Kizaru stood, beaten, bruised, but still smirking. The Admiral brushed himself off and muttered, "They've really grown." At that exact moment, the massive iron giant Vegapunk had unleashed earlier lunged forward and impaled Saturn with its weapon. "Go to hell!" it roared. But before the crew could celebrate, Borsalino appeared behind the giant in a flash of light. "Show me how strong you've really gotten," he said coldly. With one brutal kick, he sent the massive robot crashing down like a discarded toy, smacking into the ground with the grace of a pigeon turd splattering on stone. Meanwhile, Bonney's voice broke through the chaos. "Kuma isn't moving!" she cried, panic filling her words. Vegapunk quickly ordered Atlas to carry Kuma back to the lab. Without hesitation, she lifted the giant body onto her back. Applehead stepped forward, declaring he would deal with Saturn. "Focus on Bonney and Kuma," he insisted. Kizaru raised a brow. "So you're just going to let them escape?" he asked, but Saturn, cold as ever, didn't care. He waved it off. Vegapunk, furious, shouted at Kizaru and called him a coward for refusing to finish the job himself. He even called him by his old name, Borsalino, and bitterly remembered the days when the two of them had laughed together as friends. Out at sea, Admiral Doberman was already receiving orders. Saturn's words carried across the battlefield like a death sentence. Those who defied the world government would face punishment. His command was simple, merciless, a buster call. The declaration was chilling. Egghead Island had been deemed a threat, and now it was to be wiped off the map. Unlike other buster calls, this one didn't require reinforcements. The fleet was already in position, surrounding the island with guns primed and ready. In mere moments, Egghead would be reduced to ashes, not a single living soul left behind. Vegapunk's face went pale when he heard it. "A buster call?" he gasped. Saturn explained without a shred of hesitation. "Those who dare uncover the world's secrets, those who carry the blood of lost races, those who awaken ancient gods, every last one of them must be obliterated." And so the stage was set. In the next episode, panic will consume the island as the reality of the buster call sets in. Vegapunk will make a desperate attempt to reason with Saturn, arguing that Egghead's research is too important for the future of the world. But Saturn will not budge. Without mercy, without hesitation, he will ignite the flames of destruction. Things are about to spiral into absolute chaos. The Straw Hats and Vegapunk, all of them, will be forced to risk everything to escape an island that's about to become a living hell. If you want me to bring the breakdown of the next episode the second it drops, drop a One Piece 1138 in the comments so YouTube knows this masterpiece deserves the spotlight. Smash that like button, subscribe so we can hit our next goal before the year ends, and don't miss the next video, it's insane. Thanks for watching, and peace.